Welcome back, everyone, to FreightWaves Drive Time. I am Grace Sharkey, and we are here for a wonderful episode this Tuesday. For all of you drivers out there, make sure you stay safe and informed. You can get coast-to-coast coverage here at SiriusXM, plus on-demand sports, news, talk, and comedy. Hear it all at SiriusXM on your favorites. You can actually, for all you fleet managers out there, you can start getting your drivers SiriusXM for just under $5 a month. Head to SiriusXMFleet.com to learn more. And I'm excited because we're celebrating a lot of stuff today. We've got a guest who's been on the show before, a company that's been with us before. Happy to have them on again. And then the second half of the show, we've got some wonderful new freight tech to talk about in the good old scheduling arena as well. But I want to start off with our good friend Greg Braun from C3 Solutions, their Chief Revenue Officer, because Greg, we're celebrating something today, and that is a wonderful 25th anniversary. For our listeners who might not know C3, let's start with a nice introduction. Greg, can you give them a good idea of what C3 is solving for our industry?
Yeah, well, C3 is a supply chain software provider, and we specialize in the area of dock scheduling and yard management. So and we've also recently come out with a product that allows us to stay in touch with drivers to expedite the gate process, the gate check-in process, as well as allowing our customers to stay in touch with drivers once they arrive on site and so forth. So yeah, that's essentially what we do. We're focused on those main areas: yard management, dock scheduling, and everything else around it.
I love having conversations with your team over there. One, just the technical team I've talked with before. If you've missed any of our chats with C3, I would highly suggest to go check out the Stock Out. They've been on a number of episodes with us in the past, and you can catch up all of those on our YouTube page or anywhere you listen to podcasts as well. But the team not only has the technical expertise behind it, but of course, they also have this incredible team that's looking to solve these real issues. And it's interesting because I always love chatting with you because the realm of technology that you're in, it feels and it's directed right a little bit more towards the shippers, warehouses, etc. But the outcome of it, right, is presented within the drivers themselves and being able to get in and out. I always tell people, no driver wants to sit anywhere, right? They want to get in and
Exactly.
they want to get
Yeah.
unloaded. I've never met a driver who said, keep that on my back as long as you can. That's a world that doesn't exist. And I would love if you could maybe do a quick overview of some of the solutions, including the new ones that you're just discussing. So those listeners, of course, can get a chance to hear about the innovation that we've seen over the last 25 years from you.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'd gladly do that, Grace. And I should have added, I'm, as you mentioned, I'm the chief revenue officer, but I'm also one of the co-founders of the company. So the 25 years is means a lot to me because we've been there right from the very beginning, and it's been, it's been a great 25 years. It's gone by so fast. It's incredible how fast it goes. But there's obviously we've had our hardships like every startup has, right? So and before you know it now, and but we still try and think of ourselves as a startup. I guess it's just like
Yeah.
people. I mean, hey, I'm over 50, and I look in the mirror, and you still think of yourself as like 20 years old or whatever. Same thing with at least with C3. It doesn't feel like we're 25 years old. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't. But anyhow, we are, and it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, there's been a lot of things that have really transformed us, I guess, over the last 25 years. And we've been fortunate. We've had great customers. We have great employees. We have great customers. And I think one of the, if I just kind of go back, I mean, obviously we started off in the yard management sector. So if you go back, for those of your listeners that can remember what logistics was like 25 years ago, yard management was something that not a lot of people were doing. I mean, you just think about the technology at the time. Wi-Fi existed, but if you wanted to have a Wi-Fi network, you had to install it yourself. You couldn't just, use your phone. I mean, there was no such thing as smartphones, right? Um, so there were a lot of challenges. So effectively, if you were going to be a yard management provider, and our main value proposition then, as it is today, is that we provided great visibility of the trailer inventory, of also all of the trailers that are on site, the actual products that are in the trailers as well, and then probably most importantly, we help the productivity of the yard drivers, right? So back in those days, I mean, drivers, we would have these big clunky wireless screens that would be in their trucks. They were like the green screen thing, and our customers at the time had to install their own private Wi-Fi networks, right?
Wow.
Which was incredibly expensive. So, I mean, all that to say is that in those days, you needed to have a very big problem to be able to just cost justify a yard
Mhm.
management system. So, consequently, we grew up as a company only dealing with these massive operations, right? So that was just like there was no other way to do yard management. Somebody couldn't come out and say, "Hey, I've just got 2 trucks and we're just moving. We don't have that many trailers moving around." You needed to have a big problem, and we were fortunate enough. One of our first customers, a huge regional grocer in the U.S., they were already, they had developed their own system, so they knew what they wanted, but they just realized that, hey, this is crazy. We can't keep maintaining this system that they had developed, which was actually a pretty cool system for, again, we're talking 1999, 2000 type of thing.
Yeah.
And so they went to the market, they found us, and we were just a small little company, but we had some innovative things that we were doing, and they said, "Hey, this can work." So they took a chance on us, and we went from a startup to managing I mean, these guys, they were running up to 25, 30 hostlers in their yard at one time. So I mean,
Wow.
that's essentially a dispatch problem, right? So now you're
Yeah.
talking you're dispatching a fleet. But so that was a huge breakthrough for us, that we were able to actually still be standing after that customer came to us, and obviously we grew immensely from that. And so yeah, that was our first big break. And then oddly enough, we got a foothold in Europe almost right away. Which, again,
Wow.
think about it, there was no Google in 2002.
True. Yeah.
There's no Google. So how do you find a company? You're in England. How do you find, or you're in Europe, wherever how do you find a company that, if small company like ours at that time in Canada, like, but there again, I mean, this was another company that was in the grocery industry. So, between continents, big operators talk to each other. So they were talking to, this customer we had in the States. So we started doing business in Europe, and that allowed us to get, so now, I don't know, this is 2-3 years after we've been in business. And so, yeah, we're providing great optimization for the yard hostlers. So we're really helping our customers in that regard. Again, we're providing that visibility on the trailer inventory and the products in the trailers, all these good things. And now we're talking to European operators right off the bat. I mean, obviously we're still doing business in the U.S. and Canada, but now all of a sudden we're talking to European operators. And it was funny, and I mentioned this because it really did transform our product a lot. Because
Interesting.
again, a lot of the Europeans would come to us and say, "Well, you know what? I don't know if we really have that much of a problem, because we don't have the big yards like you have in North America," which
Mm.
was true,
Yeah.
which is totally true. However, that was actually even more of a challenge
Yeah.
because they didn't have the big yards. The whole idea was, it wasn't so much just like, "Hey, how do you park these things up so that in a couple of days or whatever you can bring it up?" It's like there was no room for error. You had
Yeah.
to, the whole idea was site flow. And that, we actually coined that term at one point. It became a site flow situation. So you just had to make sure that when a trailer showed up, you had to get as much visibility on why it was showing up. You had to automatically direct it to the right area, unload it, and get it out as quickly as possible. So that
Wow.
changed everything for us. So it really, it set off a light bulb to say, "Wow, this is actually where things are going to go," right? Because I mean,
Yeah.
okay, in North America we have the luxury of space, but I mean, why would you waste that space if you don't have to, type of thing?
Oh
Why would
wow.
you use
Yeah.
more than you need, right? So
Good point.
so that really was a big step for us to say, like, "Hey, this is a whole different game." So we really worked in that side of things. And one of the customers that we had that was a perfect example of that was in Europe, was a national mail provider, and they were totally revolutionizing or transforming their logistics network. So it was still kind of an old traditional mail network at that time that they were actually still using trains to deliver mail and so forth. So they went to a total road network. So to do that, they needed to have a centralized hubs and so forth, cross docks. So we went because previous to that, all of our customers, yard management was as it always traditionally is. It was sitting in between WMS and TMS, and we were just one, small player in that whole in the whole network of solutions. But now in this kind of a serious crossdock, which effectively is what it was, a really hardcore crossdock operation, we were the system.
Mm.
And so there again, that we grew with that because, and I'll never forget when we started the project. The project sponsor basically read us the riot act to say, guys, if you ever fail, like pensioners are not going to get their checks,
Yeah.
right? And that was way before people were getting automatic deposits in their bank accounts, right? So
Yeah.
now it's like if you guys fail, if we as a team fail, people aren't going to get their checks. So let's just keep that in mind, right? So and it was a whole new. It's like, okay, we grew a lot during that whole phase because
Wow.
I mean our system has always been very stable, but now it had to be absolutely mission critical. And again, we had to manage that flow. Like when a typical crossdock, a driver would show up and you would unload him and reload him so he could get back out on the road. So that again, that changed a lot of things for us. And again, we really grew from that in a lot of ways. One, we recognized how, what was the real challenge with the yard management, in our opinion. Plus, we knew that we had to provide a mission critical system. I mean, and more, we realized our customers absolutely depended on us. And if we failed ever, same thing with a grocer. When you hit those Thanksgiving rushes, if the yard fails, shelves are going to be bare. So, and that's there was no that was totally binary. It was like black and white. If that happens, we're going to have stock outages. There's no doubt.
You forget, right, that how important that role is. I had a customer used to deliver in our brokerage food to prisons, and we had a truck break down, and it had a bunch of protein go. And he's like, "You guys got to get that thing there in like 12 hours, or they're not going to be happy." And I was like, "Well, we're doing," and they're like, "No, I mean, they'll start rioting." It's like,
yeah, exactly. Start rioting. No,
you're like, but
totally.
you forget about the livelihoods of everyone that you're serving. And I think it's an incredible story. And I'm going to take a quick break here because we got a lot more to get into here in this next segment, but it's a perfect example, I think, Greg, of not only just technology and its evolution over time, which I want to dive into a little bit more with you, but incredible story of just growth and in capturing the customers and learning from customers too. So
Yeah.
let's take a quick break here for our audience. Of course, we're listening to Sirius XM channel 146, Road Dog Trucking Channel. Stick with us after this break, and we'll be right back with you.
Excuse me. Jeez, I've got a bit of an itchy throat. Anyhow, I got my water here. I'm good.
It's funny, and I'm breaking the rule right now. I have they have like a rule, my producer and I'm only allowed to drink water, because if I drink anything else, I will get a sore throat, and then at some point in the show I'm like, and my producer every time he's like, "Are you drinking tea?" And I'm like, no, yes I am. So only even sometimes the flavored water I do,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like
no, I'm on just flat water. I usually will drink carbonated water, but that's the last thing you want to do, be burping up all the time.
true that, yeah, exactly, 100%. All right, let's do another intro,
Okay.
and then we get right back into it. Great stories, though. That's really incredible. All right. And welcome back, everyone, to Sirius XM's Road Dog Trucking Channel, here with us on FreightWaves. Happy Tuesday. We're having some fun celebrating C3 Solutions' 25th anniversary. And thank you, Greg, for diving into really the founding story and how you evolved with your customers. I think that's what's incredible about hearing that is, we always talk about technology, making sure it's moving with the times, but also are these companies listening to their core customers? Are they learning from them, right? Are they improving the technology to those needs? And it really hit me too, when you bring up going over to Europe and utilizing space more efficiently, right? Like, and you're
Yeah.
right. Like, why wouldn't we be trying to do that in with our American customers or North American customers, even though they do have that space? And if anything, right, I'm sure you can double the efficiency if they do have more space. So, really great points there in particular. And it's interesting because I'm also at the same time you're telling that story, I'm thinking about like the evolution of tech itself, right? You talked about the internet. I'm back here thinking like, oh my God, they don't even have probably was the cloud even running at that time, right? And
No, when
yeah,
we started, there was no cloud.
yeah. So can you tell me about how you've worked kind of that evolution of tech into that customer conversation too, and maybe what was like a turning point where you're like, okay, this we're gonna really with this type of evolution in tech, we're gonna really be able to solve some problems here.
Well, no, that's a great question. And yeah, so we and I guess in some ways we just it was heartbreaking for us really because we'd go to our customers and we had this solution, but then it costs a lot of money to put to build a private wireless network. It costs a lot of money. It would cost more than our solution, so
Yeah.
that would be heartbreaking, right? So like and they're doing engineering work and putting up poles and stuff like this. So we were hoping for the day, we couldn't wait for the day when we would be able to, leverage a wireless network that was there, as ubiquitous like it is now. So those were some of the things that we were hoping were coming. And obviously we were starting to get better in technology in the trucks. So now we were getting in, they may have been proprietary, but there was still, we weren't dealing with green screens anymore at a certain point, which was a great step forward. But then,
No more tabbing needed, right? No
no,
more.
exactly.
Yeah.
Tabbing with those lovely 4-line readouts.
I love that.
So then at a certain point, and we're dealing with even though they're proprietary devices, we at least we're dealing with, LED type devices. And, but for us, the real turning point was because yard management back in those days, everyone regarded it as yard and dock. Actually, you called it yard and dock. So it wasn't really dock scheduling per se, but you managed the docks, right?
Mhm.
And the whole idea of someone booking an appointment over the internet, that did not happen. That didn't exist. However, there were aspirations to do it. We're thinking, hey, do you think we could maybe do that? And our system at that time, the yard system was on-prem. So it was like, geez, yeah, that's going to be pretty tough to do. So ultimately though, we bit the bullet, and because we were getting a lot of demand at one point where people were saying they didn't really have that, because I mentioned earlier how if you had a yard, you want to put a yard management system in place, you need to have a massive problem. So we started, it wasn't just us and other companies were starting to do yard management. Everybody said, hey, I'd like to get a yard management system, or I'd like to have just the dock piece of it. Well, when you build a solution to be as mission critical as I talked about and to deal with these massive operations, if you've got a guy that's just doing a few appointments here and there, I mean, it doesn't scale, right? I mean, you can't, and especially the technology of that day, it didn't scale. So at one point we thought, hey, we need to, bite the bullet and kind of separate the scheduling piece from our on-premise yard management. So the yard and dock solution, right? So we did that, and that was a huge step for us. And now we were in the cloud. So now it was like, we're talking, I don't know, 2010 timeframe, where again the cloud wasn't the cloud that it is today, but it was still there and it was viable to actually do that. So that was a big step for us because now we could actually serve a different part of the market. So there were people that didn't really have a yard management problem. They still had a scheduling issue, which ultimately would improve their yard situation. Now that you're scheduling people in there, it's improving the flow at the yard. So that was a really big change. That was a game changer for us. And then ultimately things happen like, now you can just connect in, Steve Jobs comes around, you've got, the iPad, the iPhone, all this great stuff,
True.
Android devices. And now you're able to just piggyback off of any mobile network that's out there. And so costs go down dramatically, which is great. And then eventually for us, we had to bite the second bullet, which was to say, okay, we still had this great on-premise system. And but we knew, and it was still, we're running on 1990s technology, right? So,
Yeah.
If you're delivering a solution in 2000, it's coming from 1990s technology. So we had to redo it. And again, I know a lot of companies I think would have just tried to keep try and build something on the side, but because that on-prem system was our bread and butter system, right?
Yeah.
And from a revenue point of view, it was like we depended on it. But we made the hard decision of saying, look, if we want to really commit ourselves to this, to being in the cloud, we've got to do it, full blast.
Yeah.
So we made some tough decisions, and one of them was like, look, we're retired, we're out of end of life on the on-premise system.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of disappointed customers saying like, we love this system. It's like, yeah, but it's old. It's hard to
Yeah.
keep. It's hard to keep
to
it going.
manage. Yeah.
Yeah, and as a company, we pride ourselves in being innovative. I mean, you can't work on, there's a certain limit to the technology platform you're working on. So, we knew we couldn't take that solution into the cloud. It was your traditional client server type technology. So that was a really big step for us. And then, so we did that. We survived it. And, fast forward up to, 2020s and so forth is when we decided, hey, let's take the next. Now we've got this great customer base of people using not only the scheduling piece in the cloud, but also the yard management piece. And so we've got this little ecosystem. Now we've got all these people on our platform. And so that was when we thought, hey, we've got to improve the driver situation, right? So we've done all these great things for our customers. We're really managing the flow at the sites because we've got these super strategic plans, schedules that are they're coming in. Our customers are building their optimal plans. They're getting at the site where we're able to move these guys around really quick. But we gotta do it better, right? We have to improve the driver experience, which is ultimately and our customers were really honest to say, look, we got to expedite the gate check-in. Like, it's just a waste. Everyone was coming to us saying, we can't justify investing so much money in the gate. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be some technology we can use at the gate that's going to do this better. So that was what really drove us to find a way to put a solution in the drivers that are delivering to our customers. How are we going to help them? How are we going to expedite that process? And so, yeah, that was kind of the last area that we've really kind of embraced, the last part of technology where we've kind of said, look, that's effectively the future for us, as we're going to be continuing to work on this new platform, the C3 Hive, which is really this kind of a community where all of our customers, suppliers, and drivers are all on this one big platform that we can now leverage to try and, there's a lot of, I mean, quite frankly, we don't even know all the things we're going to do with it yet, but we've started off by making sure that we can enhance that driver experience when they show up on site. We're going to get them checked in, and first of all, they're going to come in with that appointment. So we're going to make sure they don't have to wait. They're going to get checked in quickly on site, and now we can continue to communicate with that driver while he's on site. So we can let him know that, hey, your trailer is being unloaded. We're just about ready for you. Okay, now it's unloaded. Now go get your paperwork. So we can all do that without somebody trying to call them or whatever. You can just get little text messages and what have you. And so we can, so that's on the site, but we see there's all kinds of potential to do other things now too. Like even before, some of the things that we're going to be coming out with relatively shortly is helping our customers, especially on the scheduling side of things, is that customer has set up a delivery appointment to our customer, or that supplier has set up a delivery appointment to our customer. That customer our customer is going to say, hey, I want visibility on, did the pickup occur? Has the driver shown up on your site to pick up the goods? Right. That's fine that you've set up this appointment here, but what's the probability of you actually making it? Right. So those are kind of the things that we're looking at, putting really low cost solutions in the hands of our customers, suppliers, and carriers, so that we can really get everybody on the same page. Right.
Yeah. It's like you're entering this world of almost like a predictive analysis of all of that data
Exactly.
that's flowing
Exactly.
in. And that's where I get really excited too. I think just it's crazy to like do this whole 25-year back rewind and think, part of me was going to ask you 25 years from now, what do you think you'll be doing? But I don't even think our brains can comprehend that, to be honest. They say your brain can't even like think
Yeah,
about
yeah.
something it's never achieved or seen. It's a silly question to ask because how quickly this is evolving. I just know my answer would be wrong. So,
No,
or
well, exactly. Because if you had asked me 25 years ago what we'd be doing today, I don't know if I would have said this, but
I love it. Well, Greg, we're running out of time here, but I do want to save you some time to have our audience, of course, if they're listening and they want to learn more and talk with you about, of course, a lot of this technology and see, how it can work for them. What's the best place for them to reach out to you and to the C3 as well?
well, the best way to find us is still on the web, is with www.c3solutions.com. And we have a knowledge center out there where we try and be we try and be agnostic. I mean, obviously, we're going to be
Yeah,
talking about C3 to a bit, but we're trying not to sell as much as just inform people. So we've got
love
some
that.
great content out there where we really get into certain subjects, whether it's yard optimization, whether it's appointment scheduling in terms of what are some of the do's and don'ts if you're out there trying to find a system. We've got all kinds of great content out there. Talk also about a lot of our customer success stories and so forth. So yeah, I'd like to think there's a whole ton of great content that people can actually take advantage of out there. So, and of course, we will have some call to actions out there for people to maybe sign up for a demo or what have you. But yeah, I mean, you can just go and browse that, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you afterwards if you just want to even just fire any questions or show you the product, show what we're up to.
Well, and during the break too, we were both discussing that you'll be at Manifest as well with a booth. So everyone, make sure you go
Definitely.
check that out.
Yeah, by all means, anyone that's going to be at Manifest, please come check us out. We're going to be out there, and we've got some cool things. We've started to we've partnered with a Vision AI provider, Eagle,
Oh,
and
yes, yeah,
so we are going to be, in fact, we're going to be showing our joint technologies together, as will they in their booth. So
yeah.
yeah, so that's some cool stuff. When you talk about expediting the gate process, there's some pretty interesting things there,
Oh,
using
yeah,
Vision AI. So there's some very, I mean, AI in general. I mean, as a company, C3, we are extremely excited about AI. We can see there's going to be a lot of things that's going to, a lot of changes that are going to happen in our product. We're going to be leveraging AI really to the nth degree. And the other thing that's super exciting in our world is
yeah.
that whole self-driving trucks thing. That's
Wow.
another issue, which, we're probably much further along C3 wise on AI, but self-driving trucks is another thing that is going to really change our customers' world.
Yeah, and managing those of that tech as well. Wow. For our audience too, Eagle actually was on the Stock Out as well. So you can check out both of those wonderful companies on the Stock Out podcast that we have with me and Mike Bowden Distal on our podcast sites too. So, Greg, thank you so much. This has been a great convo, almost like a nice little like history of technology in the space as
Well,
well.
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't think it would be, but I find myself,
I
Jesus,
know
it's
it.
talking about, I
I
feel
know,
so
and I love
old.
it. It's incredible to like kind of see just how far we've come and what's coming around the corner. So, Greg, thank you so much for joining me. For our audience, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with you. Stick with us here on the Road Dog Trucking Channel 136.